relatives lose everything because they were too stupid to keep their mouths shut.
A bit of a context here. I work as a lawyer for an excellent and famous law firm here in Northern Italy. My family went through some though times. In the last 9 years, we had to face a brutal divorce with my dad having depleted every single cent he could. One of my aunts was brutally murdered because of a €150 cautionary deposit. My granddad was diagnosed with cancer. And some other funny stuff in the middle. Because of that, our bonds became stronger and stronger. Must say that with my family. I mean my mother, her parents and my 2 aunts this year. COVID-19 managed to take away both my aunts. I loved them to the moon and back. But one of them was married to a complete douchebag. He always considered himself to be better and smarter than anyone else. And so were his relatives. My aunt and her husband. I straight up refused to call him uncle. Lived in a huge house. And so did his brother with her wife and son. He died around 7/8 of a year ago and left almost everything he could just to his brother and his family. Completely ignoring my family because OP's granddad is already rich. Why should I leave anything to his daughter and grandson? Quote. Basically, this year, my aunt was won by COVID. I was grieving. Since I really loved her and cared about her. And I already lost another aunt prior. When the notary called us to read the will. Both me and my mother came out completely astonished. She left us just a few things. Even though she always said she would have left us basically everything. I don't need the money involved that much. As I already inherited from my other aunt. And my job pays me really well. But my mom always had to struggle. Financially speaking, it would have been a huge help. Since she doesn't want anything from me. I tried to give her some money in the past. But she always sent them back. Being stubborn as she can be. As we walked out, I pulled my cousin by my side to ask him just one thing. Me. Hey, cousin, listen. I know it's a dumb question. But, when I last saw her, I brought my aunt a little ceramic bell. Shaped as a lady. She holded it to her chest all the time. I'd like to have it back. It would be a memory of her, he. Smiling at me as I was the most stupid people on earth. Yeah, sure. Whatever. IDK what I could do with that stupid bell. Take it. But don't expect us to give you anything more. We had to sweat bullets for this will to work. Me. I'm sorry. What you mean? He realized he screwed up. So he just left. My mom went back home. I headed back to my office to take a closer look on my aunt's will. It was bulletproof. And the handwriting was, without any doubt, my aunt's. So, what the hell did he mean? It took me several weeks to finally get the clue. As previously mentioned by my husband, it was just this small phrase. My aunt's husband died 7 years before. How the hell could he mention anything? Since zombies are still nowhere to be seen and I don't know of any deceased person talking from his grave, I started to scan the whole will once again. Things I never noticed became as clear as the sun one. There were missing pages. My aunt numbered them. But the second and fourth pages were missing. With sentences left hanging there. Point 2. Some of the corrections were legit. But looking closely, there were a few of them where the uncertain hand of a 81-years-old lady suddenly became stronger and more precise. Point 3. My aunt's husband was mentioned every time my aunt was talking about money and valuables. He did say something about the savings. But apparently his ties that were to be given to charity didn't need his approval. Strange. Huh? When I talked to my mum and her parents about this, my granddad, who is 74 and still has more strength and lucidity than your average 40-years-old dude, mentioned my aunt's husband Will. We don't know what he said. His family never let us even take a look at it, and it wasn't worth it to sue them. I went back to the notary the next day, asking to see the will. Since I was a relative, he let me, but asked what was going on. I simply said, "You'll know soon enough." When I read it, I started laughing so hard that even the secretary came to see what the fuck was going on. I rushed back to my office and started to write everything down. Shit was about to hit the fan. But not for my family. After a few days, me, my mom, her parents and my aunt's relatives met once again in front of the notary. I already told him what was happening. I could see him trying not to look disgusted as my aunt's husband's beloved ones walked in. Notary: "We are all here. Apparently, Op has some things to discuss with us concerning inheritances." You could hear a pin drop a mile away. I stood up and opened my bag. My family was smiling. My relatives were staring daggers from their eyes. Me. As we all know, Auntie left everything to you. Nothing is wrong here, as she didn't have any direct relationship with anyone in this room. What is wrong is the reason behind it. I handed a copy of the will to everyone, with some parts being highlighted. Me. As you can see, pages are missing. Some corrections are different, to say the least, but most importantly, my uncle is cited quite often. This led me to his will. At this point, my relatives turned whiter than snow. My cousin tried to stop me, telling me I couldn't possibly use my uncle's will, as more than 5 years passed. The notary told him that I totally could, as the allowance to contest a will is 10 years. He kept silent. Me. He left to my aunt everything he had if she would have left it to you as she died. You see, in our state it's not legal to make such a kind of contract. So, I want to let you know that you just lost all your rights and my uncle's will. And you are all to be sued for false declaration in public deed and attempted fraud. They started screeching and screaming, calling me names and wishing me an obviously pleasant and late death. All because one of them wasn't clever enough to shut his mouth. Now they lost everything they had. Since their farm, their money, their house and their cars were all my uncle's. They have been forced to leave the house they were living in. All their bank accounts have been blocked, and even their farm had to be closed since it was also my uncle's previous activity. Since the correction they made were actually very precise, and some items, jewelry, ingots, cash, are now mysteriously missing. They even have to pay for an equal value. They had a little empire, but managed to lose everything over greed and stupidity. Ladies and gentlemen, please listen to me. If you want to screw with someone, at least have the courtesy of not doing it with a lawyer. Till that notaries in Italy are powerful people. Whoa, that was one hell of a ride. I approve of this revenge. So many families are caught up in inheritance. Some people so arrogant and selfish that they feel entitled to everything. Seeing those kind of people be taught a lesson. Kudos to Op. I guess I'm dense. I have no clue what happened. He left to my aunt everything he had if she would have left it to you as she died. I think this is the line that's the big reveal. But I don't get it. So did your family get the inheritance? There is something big in here that does not sit right with me. And it is a big enough inconsistency that I think you have made this up. You claim that, despite being a lawyer, whose job it is to be very attentive to detail in paperwork, especially legal documents, and despite spending several weeks looking over the will and claiming that it seemed bulletproof, it was only after finding a small discrepancy involving your aunt's husband that you noticed that there were whole pages missing? Not only that, but that there were sentences trailing off at the ends of the pages before those empty spots. How is it possible that you, a lawyer, read, reread, and reread this will again and not only didn't notice missing pages and unfinished sentences in a binding legal document, but even went as far as to say it was bulletproof? None of that makes sense. I call bullshit. Sorry for your loss. I'm a little confused as to how she's your aunt though, since she passed at 91 and your grandfather is listed as 74. Was she your great-aunt? I don't understand. How did the notary, who read the will, not notice missing pages and incomplete sentences? For that matter, you were there for the reading of the will. How do you miss the messed up vernacular? Great, you finally fixed it, but damn dude. It shouldn't have taken that long. Remarkable story, plot holes the size of Australia here and there, but it's okay. This sub doesn't distinguish between fact and fiction for a long time now. Damn, that's deserved. This story has too much drama to be real. Also, in Italy they can contest your claim, and the legal process lasts years. Lose. And this post, like every other on this sub, is clearly fictional. This sub should be called R. Uncreative Writing. That notary ain't worth shit if he didn't notice pages missing or different handwriting. They are so complacent with just cashing checks that they got lazy. I'd probably sue his ass too. Not American, by the way. I have no idea what is supposed to have happened in this story. Where are the missing pages? What were the corrections? The most important sentence just says he left my to your aunt. How is the condition on the contract even relevant? Whilst that would make his will illegal, it doesn't change hers. And they're still named in her will. How does that change anything? She still gets everything. And they get it in her name. This story is very poorly explained.
Lose.
I want to be a fan of this, but as others have said, it makes no sense. And then everyone clapped. So, you have refused to call him uncle, but you called him uncle in front of your family? Winking face.
Hell yeah.
Well, this was a shit show.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.